views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM Software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet, with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube, and on my blog, GaryBaumgarten.com, where you're encouraged to post your comments, whether you agree with yours truly or not. And boy, do we have a lot of stories on there for you, including how Obama has put Netanyahu in a political box, and how the first Guantanamo Bay detainee has been transferred to Manhattan to stand trial, and about how the tribesmen in Pakistan are turning against the Taliban, and about how gas is rising like crazy in spite of the fact that demand is down. The law of supply and demand would suggest otherwise. And about a plan to put a dome over the entire city of Houston. I'm not kidding you. You can't make this stuff up. And my prediction that swine flu will be back on the front pages again in just a couple of days. It's also a story about how competition is going out the window because of the economy when it comes to television news, which is why you need alternative sources like News Talk Online to tell you about the kinds of things that I just told you about. Hey, my first guest, you never would have imagined I would ever invite a homeless guy onto Paltalk, but you know, actually, Boaz has gotten to know this fella. I actually met him when I was in California covering the Rose Bowl on New Year's Eve. I met Jeff Willoughby. He's a pretty smart guy, and you wonder how a fellow who you could sit down with and talk philosophically about almost any issue ended up on the streets. Jeff is 54 years old. He's been homeless for 7 years. And with the economy such as it is, more and more people are going homeless. The soup kitchens cannot keep up with the demand if you need a barometer to prove it. And people are living in their cars and in their RVs that they're supposed to be using for recreation because they've been evicted from their homes, and other people are bunking with friends and family members. So while they may not be out on the street, they are kind of homeless because they're not living in their own homes. It's really a very transient society that is evolving here in the United States. And so we've talked about this issue of homelessness. We've talked about how sometimes the police, following the orders from above in various communities, harass homeless people. We've talked about the dangers of being homeless on the street. And we've talked about programs that have been established to help homeless people get back into society on a firm footing. But we've never actually sat down and devoted a segment of a program to talk to a homeless guy, but we are today. Jeff Willoughby, Jeff the homeless guy, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
Thank you very much. I hope you're having a good day. And
well, we hope you're having a good day. It's a pleasure having you live from Simi Valley, California, on the streets where you live. You've been homeless, Jeff, for 7 years. How did your life go from being a productive member of society to somebody who has been unfortunate enough to have to live for a full 7 years on the streets?
Well, what happened was I was living in San Fernando Valley, California, and both my parents contracted 2 different types of cancer, and they needed treatment up in the state of Washington. So not being married or having any children, I just kind of burnt my bridges and went up there to watch after them. Then after they passed away, I wanted to come back to California. And pretty much I just, it was difficult because I had a dog at the time, and very few people would take a mid-sized dog. But I didn't want to send the dog back to the animal shelter, so I kept looking around. Eventually I ran out of money, and the jobs around here didn't pay a heck of a lot, and so it was rather difficult to fall back into something that was full time and I could really be productive at.
And I guess once you're homeless, it's pretty difficult to go in and get a job. I mean, you don't have an address to give to a potential employer, and not to be rude about it, you're not going to be able to present yourself in the kind of fashion where somebody might want to hire you. Have you tried to get back in to the workforce in these past 7 years, and what has that been like, Jeff?
Yes, I have, but it's just based on the point that you made. It's very important. Trying to apply for a job, one of the first things they ask you, of course, is do you have a residence? And you have to be honest and say I'm homeless and that I'm looking for a place to stay. But a lot of them just pretty much either politely or sometimes rudely kind of say goodbye. And so what you have to do is just try your best. And I've gotten some odd jobs, and I took care of a Korean War veteran with a couple of other people, and then some landscaping jobs. But like I say, to get anything permanent, it's very, very difficult.
Are there any programs there in California that might help you get a job, a shelter that might give you some clothing and some food and an address that you could use, so at least you look presentable when you knock on somebody's door and you have an address to give them?
Yeah, I have an address from a gentleman and his wife that I befriended. That they're an elderly couple, and they're very nice to let me, use their address. But I can't live with them. And upon using that, at least I do have a mailing address. But every job that I try to apply for, the idea is that they ask, like I said, that question about a residence, but also they ask, what are your basic skills and what can you do, and are you computer savvy, or a number of different other questions like that, which of course is very natural. But I was a physical education teacher, and those jobs are taken up around here pretty much. And as far as your idea about shelters are concerned, around here there are the charities, especially the religious charities, they're one-nighters, and then you got to have the ability to move on, to another one the next night, so you can't stay there. There is one place, the Samaritan Center, that is good. They give you clothes and food, but they're only open so many hours of the day, and you can't spend the night over there. So everything's kind of, it's diversified in the sense of it's all very split up and erratic. And around here, you can't take a dog on a bus. Now, I don't have a dog at the moment, so at least I can use the bus now. But the buses don't, they only run certain hours, and they won't run on a Sunday, but that's regardless of that, because not many people are hiring on Sundays. But at the same time, it gets to be a problem, because when you're living outside and you have a certain amount of luggage and you can't afford storage, then there's a big problem in getting, stolen from. And that's happened a number of times with me, and it's just something that it kind of goes along with the territory. And you have to watch your stuff as much as possible. And now I always take 2 bags around with me that are fairly good size, and I have to hide all my bedding stuff